Yeah, hello and welcome to this video. This is the first one of a couple of CE on CE videos that I'm going to release in the next couple of weeks. I haven't done those for a long while, but I have played a couple of games in recent months. Yeah, I think it's maybe almost a year since I did such a video. I played a couple of interesting games and I'm going to present them yeah, I said in the next couple of weeks. I'll also be on vacation a bit, so not quite sure when exactly, but let's kick off with this video. I'm going to start with the most interesting game that I played in the last year. Also the most attractive to watch, maybe. Yeah, let's get going. This is a game played in January this year, late January. It was played in the second German league, the Zweite Bundesliga, second league. On board one between my club Dienstlaken and Katernberg, Essen Katernberg. Yeah, we finished in next to last or last place, how we may count it in this league. So it wasn't a very successful year for the club. I had a pretty good result, and one reason for this was this game. My opponent is Alexander Kovchan. He's a grandmaster from the Ukraine. And at the time of playing, he was rated 2,596, so very close to the 2,600 mark. Yeah, let's have a look at this game. I played knight f3, and he went g6. This already came as a surprise. I mean, I wasn't quite sure if I'm going to play him, because the opponent's team had a couple of people that potentially could play on board one. So I did make a preparation, but it wasn't very, very conclusive, because if you have to prepare for three people who also have a wide opening repertoire, it quickly comes to the point where it's pointless. So I knew his repertoire roughly, but it was a surprise. He was normally playing the Grünfeld, and or let's say he was playing like lines like this, but it's possible that he found in his preparation games of mine where, I mean, this is a non-starter if you want to win a game with black. White has this line, which is super solid, or some queen a4 related lines where black can hardly win the game if white is playing it well. At least my opinion. E4 is especially solid. So my take is he wanted to avoid these kind of anti-Grünfelds and get out of normal theory quickly. G6, not a move I had on the radar at all. Okay, I played e4 as I usually do against g6, pretty much shutting down any Grünfeld type of things. Bishop g7 and d4. Yeah, now here's a parting of the ways. Black can do many things. He can go d6 for King's Indian kind of style. Here I usually go either c4 or c3 depending on my mood on that day. c4 is very likely transposing to a King's Indian here. He, however, played something entirely different. He played the move d5. And this means that I was out of book on move 3. I had never seen this idea. However, looking at this after the game, I actually discovered that he had played this once before in one single game. So it's something that I could have seen before that he plays it, but well, it's just one game out of hundreds. Okay, white takes it, of course, and after queen takes, we have a Scandinavian type of position and not something that I have on the board every day. So this is an interesting choice to get a white player maybe a little bit out of his comfort zone, even though it's a very classical, normal kind of position that every player should play somehow. It felt a little bit unusual to have it on the board. Yeah, okay, he went back to d8, and here I was thinking briefly. I didn't want to spend lots of time on such a position. I played h3, which is maybe not the most let's say straightforward move. I felt that bishop g4 could be annoying to put pressure on my knight and thus attack d4. This is why I went h3. I wanted to prevent bishop g4. It's not strictly necessary. I mean, I found games where strong players played knight c3. Of course, this is a sideline, but still, there were games where this was played. It's possible. I mean, bishop g4 is not the end of the world. White can still do this, and maybe after knight c6 play d5, if this kind of quick attack on d4 is happening in the first place. So h3, not really necessary, but it's not a bad move either. And he went knight h6. Again, not something that I had anticipated that much, but it makes quite some sense. The knight is aiming for the f5 square to put pressure on my d4 pawn. Here I took a little bit of time and tried to figure out if I can do something very concrete against this. I thought about g4 here a bit. This is not a particularly bad move ultimately, but it's still something that did not convince me that much. The idea is that, for example, after castles, white can try something like bishop here and try queen d2, which would trap the knight actually. It has no squares. The problem is that black always has this quick f5 move. And this is attacking g4 and putting lots of pressure there. And if I have to go g5 and he goes back here, this black setup all of a sudden makes lots of sense. Yeah, he's got e5 coming. Yeah, g4. It's not a brilliant idea. You can also go f5 immediately. Here there are some funky ideas. For example, after knight c3, this I calculated a bit. Like here's all of a sudden the knight is attacked. And yeah, I mean, something like this is kind of interesting for white. I mean, there are some files here, G and H file, but okay, it was a bit too wild for my taste, and it doesn't really convince objectively. So I just went bishop e2. Of course, knight c3 is also possible. He went knight f5, attacking d4, and I had to advance it. Yeah, I think black can be happy probably with this opening position. He got this kind of unconventional type of setup that he wanted, and he's not objectively in any trouble. c6, and black took there, giving me an isolated d-pawn. Yeah, the important thing is to understand that this is a big difference if the d-pawn, the isolated d-pawn, is on d4 or on d5. On d5, it usually yeah, is an active asset that white has, or the IQP side has, because it limits black's pieces a little bit. For example, it nails down the e6 pawn here, and it can help to yeah, to control important squares. For example, on any b6, then c6 gets to be a square that white might be able to use. I was okay with my position. I think it looks like I can develop easily, and nothing nothing special is happening. Yeah, here white has a couple of options. Rook e1, bishop f4, yeah, normal development moves. However, I figured that queen b3 is an interesting choice, clearing the d1 square quickly for a rook. And I felt that sometimes if he goes knight to c5, the queen is not badly placed on a3. I saw that he now can win a pawn, but I simply couldn't believe that black is able to afford to do that. Interestingly enough, he decided to grab that pawn. It's yeah, we will see what happens. I think probably what black should do here is a move like knight to f6, just a normal move to get the pieces coordinated. Yeah, bishop f4, rook a1, rook fe1. This is between, I think, equal, and I think I like white. I always like space, but it's not a big deal. The engines give white a slight advantage in this position, but nothing special. Yeah, he went knight c5. Okay, queen a3, not much choice there. Yeah, and now, okay, here is also still a possibility for him to not grab the pawn. What he did is he took on c3 and, yeah, essentially grabbed the pawn. I'm not quite sure what his rationale was. Maybe he thought that I wouldn't give the pawn and take on c5, which is a very weak move in a way. Yeah, black goes back and is totally okay. Anyway, let's not get ahead of ourselves. What he still can do is to play b6 and cover this knight. I think, again, I like white here. I always like the space connected with this pawn. But black here is probably kind of okay. Yeah, like queen here. Develop things. And maybe bishop b7. I don't know. It looks kind of okay still for black. I mean, again, I like white, but it's nothing that is any immediate trouble. The computer says like 0.2 or something, and nothing special. Yeah, but let's go to that situation here. He took on c3, and this is a very risky move, and probably objectively also not great. I'm not sure what his idea was. Maybe he misjudged the position after grabbing the pawn, or he thought that maybe judging from my games that I would be too conservative to give the pawn. I don't know, but this is just a terribly weak idea, yeah, to play this and just trade stuff. And here black will get b6 with the tempo and is totally fine. And after queen takes, yeah, white has grabbed this important fianchetto bishop, and he will always have enough compensation for the pawn. I mean, even though here we are already talking about some concrete problems that black will face, but even on general terms, this is a fantastic compensation. Yeah, he took the pawn now, of course. It is, I mean, I would absolutely, with black, I would never take that pawn. I must say, I would be absolutely too scared. It is also possible that he was thinking, okay, I want to win this game, which is pretty clear that this was in his intention, yeah, with the whole opening choice. And maybe he said, okay, I'm going to just outcalculate you now in this complications. It's possible. I mean, it's risky, but it's an approach that that you can take. I think it's too much risk, but we'll see what happens. The next phase of the game, the next couple of moves, you can question both sides' choices because it is very, very difficult to play this. Right now, mostly has two moves, and I considered the two moves and maybe came to wrong conclusions. The moves that come into consideration here most are bishop c4, which is what I played, or rook d1. Rook d1 also looks very logical, attacking the queen, and the queen has to somehow deal with the fact that this knight is hanging. If he goes back, yeah, like to c6, I'm getting a very good play with things like that. Yeah, I'm threatening mate on g7, and yeah, I'm already winning material here. He has to move the queen to e6 or to e4. And the move that worried me during the game, if I remember correctly, I think this was the move, was queen to e4. I couldn't quite figure out what happens here. A move that is now quite strong, that I did not evaluate correctly, however, was rook e1, a move that I didn't have on the radar. I felt it's probably a little bit unnatural to move it again, but it is strong. It threatens the discovered attacks on the queen, and also there's still g4 and bishop h6. And black has some trouble here. The engine ultimately gives queen to c6. Yeah, it's difficult to not play this. If you look at stuff like that, yeah, you see how quickly black gets into trouble here. And maybe b4. Where's the knight going to go? Maybe like here. And now we have discovered moves like this and this. And black is going to get killed here. It's not playable, this position. Rook e1 was very, very... yeah, very, very promising, I think. Yeah, this rook d1 and then here rook e1. This is strongest, relatively speaking, but still after g4, knight back, bishop h6, I'm going to win some material. Rook d1 was stronger. I didn't see queen e4, rook e1 that clearly. He also can go to e6, attacking the bishop. But here bishop c4 and just bishop f7 is good. Yeah, something like this is a good position for white. The e5 square is especially attractive here for the knight or bishop. Yeah, white is better here. I can do this, maybe queen to e5. It's very nice. So the move rook d1 is probably the real problem with this. What I played, I mean, it's not bad. It gives white a strong initiative, but it is not as clear as the rook d1 option. Bishop c4 is what I played. He played queen to d6 now. Queen c6 also was possible. But white gets a very strong initiative after knight e5 as well. It doesn't feel very logical, yeah, to just walk into this this knight e5 move. Yeah, queen to b6, and now rook e1 is interesting. Or is there something else? I have rook e1 in my analysis. Yeah, just yeah, piling up a little bit here, building pressure. It's difficult. One point of this move is that bishop e6 now will be answered by this line, and white wins an exchange. Even though after queen d4, knight f8, yeah, this kind of situation is not an easy win. I mean, for someone with perfect technique maybe, but I feel that this is still quite tricky to do. But even if you have perfect technique, it's not easy. The knights are probably going to have pretty decent positions, and it's not easy for white to get a passer. So just one line. I mean, it's very difficult to come to clear conclusions and analysis in such a complicated position. I understand that this looks far more logical in comparison, and not to step into the tempo. Yeah, my next move is probably not great. I mean, I just made a misjudgment on one particular line here. I played the move b3 in this position, trying to play or threatening bishop b2. This has a problem though, and I think maybe this was the moment where he could have gotten out of this sticky situation. The best move here is g4. It's I mean, I considered this, but I couldn't quite see how I'm playing after queen to f6. However, if you look at this a little bit with the computer, it gives queen e3, and white still has a very strong initiative. Yeah, the knight here is pinned. This knight is attacked, and yeah, it's quite difficult for black. Bishop e6 is maybe the best move, but yeah, this is still very dangerous after bishop g5. This is probably what I should have done. It's better than my b3 move. The b3 idea has one big problem. Let's go back. What he played now is leading black into the difficulties that he ultimately couldn't solve. Queen f6 is the best move. I saw that, but what I didn't see is queen c2 is clear. I don't want to trade queens. And here I saw that queen takes a1 is not so great. Yeah, queen takes a1, bishop b2 leads to a very nice position for white. Yeah, the point is that if he takes here, I'll have this move, and it's quite funny. Yeah, the queen is running out of options here. It has to sacrifice on b2. Something like this is over. Yeah, note that this bishop is pinning the f pawn. Yeah, here you can just like drop a couple of things, and then ultimately will be checkmated. Yeah, it's a nice line. Yeah, okay, he can take also here, but after this queen c3 idea is very, very strong. Yeah, this I actually saw correctly, but he has this move, and this is a very good defense. The idea is to put a knight on d4. White still has a quite substantial initiative, and it's not easy for black, but it seems that objectively speaking he is all right. Yeah, bishop b2. He can put this on d4, and I mean, something like this is just not very convincing. He can check and trade lots of things. I'm not really in danger of being worse. For example, if I don't see anything better, I can always just play something like this, where I will have enough compensation for the pawn due to the better development. This bishop is still at home, and rook d1 is coming with a tempo. This is always enough for a pawn, but white is not better. if I want to get more, I maybe have to try something like bishop a3, which is still kind of interesting. The idea is to, after b2, it can hang on b2, and here, let's say after this, this is a position that still can be played. White has quite nice compensation here for the pawn, but is it better for white or winning? No, probably not. And the other position was, I think, objectively quite better. Yeah, he didn't play queen f6, however, he played the move knight e4. And this leads into quite some trouble. And yeah, I mean, it's very difficult. It's really difficult to judge. The idea itself looks very logical. Yeah, queen c2, and he goes back to f6. So he has brought his knight over from c5 to f6, which should help to cover the king side, cover the king. But it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work because of white's very strong development. Yeah, rook d1, and he went to b6. Queen c6 again was a possibility, but it's very difficult to play as you run into knight e5. The idea is this, but white has a very strong game here again, by playing the move queen to b2, keeping the queens on the board. And this is actually very difficult for black now. Yeah, we have to see that the queen on e4 is not having many squares. In some cases, it can get into direct trouble, and black has a hard time to develop easily. If he tries something like bishop e6, for example, then bishop g5, come on, bishop g5 is going to be quite dangerous. Yeah, note that the queen has no squares. Yeah, like here, f3, and the queen is trapped. Funny line. Yeah, it is a very dangerous position. He went to b6, and yeah, now I don't have a big choice here. I need to push this knight away. So g4. It's a sharp looking move, but you have no choice. You have to now play initiative moves, all moves that come with tempo and so on. You cannot like play something slow. It's just not the position to maneuver or whatever. You just have to play now move by move, the most aggressive moves if possible. Yeah, he played knight d6. Yeah, that's not much else. And here I missed an opportunity. And I kind of saw the idea, but I didn't see how strong it actually was. I decided to play bishop e3 here, which is not bad. Yeah, it's not a bad move, but bishop h6 was stronger. The point is that now very natural looking move is rook e8, I think. Then after rook e8, white has a very strong continuation. And I saw the idea, but I couldn't quite make it work. Rook takes d6. This is a very funny idea. The idea is that if black takes with the pawn, we start with this, then queen to b2 is very strong, simply threatening queen f6 and then mating on g7. The problem is it's just a ton of weird pins going on. Yeah, if he goes queen d8, for example, bishop g5, king g7, and then something like this, black will not survive. White is threatening this, for example. And he cannot get rid of this pin. Yeah, something like h6, bishop f4. You're also not going to survive. The threat is rook takes d6. This is a very strong compensation. But he can take with, rook d6. He can take with the queen. And I didn't quite see how strong this is. Rook d1. Okay, queen has to move. And here knight g5 is extremely strong. So I couldn't quite, I didn't quite see her during the game. The problem is that moves like, let's say, rook f8, I mean, okay, you can take it, but bishop f7 is
check.
A funny point, as this is
checkmate.
A mate. Very nice line. So after bishop f7, white just flat out wins the rook there. Yeah, what is he supposed to do? Bishop e6 maybe. Yeah, and here again, this is not, I mean, it looks dangerous, but I couldn't quite see how strong it is. Here, for example, takes, bishop takes. This looks good, but is it a win? It's not so easy to figure out if it wins. g5, however, is strong. Stronger even is queen to e2 in this position, threatening queen takes e6. And again, after queen b6, there's g5. And this is ultimately very, very strong. I didn't see it during the game, how strong this is. And also, I mean, I saw that bishop e3 is also not particularly bad. I anticipated that he would go queen c6, and I saw what happened in the game, or the problems that he faces there, and I was quite happy with this and didn't try to make this bishop h6, rook d6 work that hard, because I felt I also have something good here. He could have gone to a5, by the way, which would have been interesting. Here, bishop h6 is also possible. And okay, rook e8, rook d6 is very nice again here. But he can take on c4 in this position. Continue like that. It would have been a viable option. I think white is probably somewhat better. Note that here he has to place the knight on some very unfortunate square, g8. Yeah, otherwise there's queen h8 mate. Yeah, that was queen a5, but he went queen to c6, which was also what I had expected during the game. Yeah, and now I get knight e5 with a tempo. And well, he has to move the queen, and yeah, something like this is looking quite terrible. So he went to e4. This much I expected. And now queen to c3. Yeah, and the idea is now that there is the idea of f3 trapping the queen. The black queen doesn't have many squares, and the queen on c3 is also nicely positioned to look at the g7 square in combination with bishop h6. The interesting thing is that he went with this now and b6. And yeah, now I started to get quite excited, because here I saw a combination that would win me the game in a very nice way. And I was just hoping that he allows it. And in fact, he did allow the combination, which, yeah, it was a very nice finish then. After b6 here, bishop h6 is right, of course, attacking the rook. And here he can try to give the exchange back. This is not a bad choice, objectively speaking. He went rook e8, but something like bishop e6 at least prevents yeah, any checkmating things. However, after the capture, and there's something, oops, sorry, something like this, white is of course better. I'm the exchange up for a pawn, but and this is still something where black can try to hope to defend. It's, however, it's not a nice prospect. I understand that you don't want to do that. And the thing is, he overlooked my winning combination. And I mean, yeah, we'll see. Rook e8. And yeah, as I said, now I saw what's possible, and I was just hoping he wouldn't deviate in some way. Rook e1, attacking the queen. It only has the b7 square. And now rook e1. So I have got everything in play. Yeah, and now I saw that the most normal, natural looking move, bishop e6, that this would lose the game. And he played it pretty quickly. At that time, we had a time situation. I had roughly 25 to 30 minutes left, and he had, I think, like 40 minutes left, and he played this quite quickly after 1 or 2 minutes. And I was quite excited here, because I knew that bishop e6 wouldn't work, and it is the most normal looking move. Yeah, he played it, and this is something that you can use as a tactical exercise. Yeah, stop the video and try to figure out why this does not work. I'm going to be silent for a moment and then continue. I just want to give you the chance to pause. I also won't show it quite immediately, so you have now had enough time. What he should have done, by the way, is queen to c7. We'll see afterwards why this is the only way to defend. After bishop e6, white can win immediately and very convincingly with the very attractive move knight to d7. It was really a pleasure to play that. Yeah. I really had to sit on my hands for a moment because, well, I had seen like 4 moves ahead before that this would work, but I still rechecked the details and so on. You don't want to make this kind of spectacular looking move and then see that failing to some defense that you have overlooked. Yeah, so what's the point? Knight d7 obviously fails to mate.
Checkmate.
That doesn't work. And I'm threatening to play knight f6, takes, queen takes, and then mate on g7. So black cannot just ignore the whole thing. Bishop takes is the only move that makes sense in this regard. And now the point, and this is something that you hopefully had seen when you saw knight d7, there is the rook sacrifice now. Rook takes e7. Simply fighting the way, clearing the way for the queen to take on f6 and then checkmate on g7. Yeah, now after the capture, queen f6, it's going to be mate in a couple of moves. Black only has some wacky desperados. Queen g7 mate is unavoidable. So this doesn't work, and I'm just threatening to take on f6. Black only has one move. I hope you saw the whole sequence, because it is really the whole sequence, not just the first move. Queen c6. And now it's interesting again. If you didn't see the whole thing, but just maybe the idea or nothing at all, you can still use this position to see how should white now take on d7. If you want, you can pause again and try to figure out. I can take with both rooks. I can take with this rook or with this rook. But what is the best move? Yeah, the best capture is rook 7 taking on d7. Yeah, this is actually not that convincing. After rook takes, rook d8, for example, I don't have a clear way of winning. Yeah, I mean, first of all, black is also threatening some stuff, but I don't have a clear way of advancing here. Yeah? Here, knight h5, this is just covering g7 very reliably. But I can take with this rook, and this is a lot stronger. The point is that this threatens rook 7 to d6, and this is attacking the queen and the knight. And black only has rook e6 as a sensible looking move, let's say, to defend, but this doesn't work due to rook d8 check. And now nothing that black can do. If he goes back, I just go here, getting to win this, or the capture.
Check.
And now still, oops, not there, but here, yeah, queen takes f6 is the nice little point there, leading to the
checkmate.
Leading to the mate. Yeah, this was the nice combination here. That was I was able to play very nice. Yeah, what happened in the game? Exactly this happened. Yeah, knight d7. After longer thought, he took it. Rook e7. And now again, queen c6 is the only move. And he took quite a long time. I actually expected him to resign at this point. But he played this move. And yeah, I didn't quite get it. Now I'm just winning material. Winning f6. Or as he played in the game, he gave up his queen. So I was a queen up here for a rook. Yeah, he still continued this. I had time, like 20 minutes on the clock, so it was a bit strange that he didn't just resign. There of course are many ways to win. White is a queen up after all. So here threatening rook d8. Okay, rook a8. You can just take stuff here.
Check.
Yeah, pawn is not important, and now you just march the a pawn home and will promote to a new queen. So it was a very nice victory against a strong grandmaster. He had taken, I think, too many risks there while trying to complicate the game. We want to go back though, however, to this critical position. Oops, I'm sorry, that was a bit much. This position, where I saw that I have this threat knight d7. This is also happening, by the way, if black, I mean bishop e6 we saw in the game, it loses. Knight d7 is the threat here. So if he plays, I know it probably doesn't make much sense anyhow, but something like this or so, I still go knight d7. Yeah, so this is the threat, and he has to do something about the threat. The only move, absolutely the only move that does not lose straight away is queen to c7. The idea is that now knight d7 doesn't work, because in this line he has queen e5. This is why queen c7 is essential to being able to go here and protect g7. So what happens after queen c7? You have a very meek option. You can go bishop f4, threatening discoveries, and the black queen doesn't have anything better than going back, and then you can make a draw. However, what I wanted to do is, and I didn't really want to make a draw here, I mean it was very clear that my initiative here is very strong. After queen c7, it's not so easy to choose a move, because there are some attractive options. One move that, actually two moves were I had on the radar. Bishop c1, that is a very interesting idea, putting the bishop back here, so that ultimately after some g5 you have mating ideas. This is a move that I liked a lot, and is also supported by Stockfish as being quite attractive. It gives white a +1. Yeah? This is a difficult assessment in this kind of position. But it shows that it's probably giving white good chances. The other move that I found very attractive, and I'm not quite sure what I would have played, is rook to d4. This has a couple of ideas. The main idea is to play like rook f4 and then have this option of taking here. Like very crude, like rook f4, knight move, rook f6, and mate on g7 at the end. This is also very attractive and given as the best move by the engine after you let it calculate for a while. Black really has a hard time to arrange his pieces here. For example, if he goes bishop e6 here, knight f3, and tending rook f4, is already winning for white. Note that after g5, knight h5, there is also rook h4. So if you look at this, for example, this is a huge idea, and white wins. Yeah, rook d4 is quite strong. I mean, I'm not quite sure what I would have done. As also like the idea of bishop c1. It's a very attractive looking move. The best is probably b5 according to the comp, and after rook f4, ditching a pawn. But it's quite clear that only white can be better here. It's equal material, and something like this is still going to be very dangerous. However, it's what he had to play. Queen c7 was the only move. Otherwise, this knight d7 tactic is killing black. So let's look at one or two key moments of this game. I think what to take from this is maybe for other games is one particular situation. I think that's very important. Like here, yeah? he took on c3, and you shouldn't be afraid to give up a pawn against a stronger player if you feel like this is the right continuation. Queen c5 is just a very, yeah, it's psychologically also a very weak move. Yeah, you should just play this, and you have enough compensation. If you see that you have the very strong bishop here that is always ready to be put on the long diagonal or to h6, you have this tempi, so white has a very strong compensation. If you feel like you get a compensation for the pawn, you should still be able to sacrifice that pawn even against a stronger player. Yeah, try to play in a brave way against a stronger player. The stronger player always wants you to play passively, and if you can avoid this, play actively, it's always the better recipe. Playing passive moves against a stronger opponent is what he wants. Yeah, and here in these kind of situations, I mean, we saw that both sides made some mistakes or inaccurate moves. This is actually helping you if you want to beat a stronger player, because yeah, it gets sharper, and it gets in many cases to a situation where he can actually go wrong. The stronger player very rarely goes wrong in a strategic judgment or an end game judgment or so. But if it's about dynamics, quite often, yeah, you'd simply hit the right moves when you have the initiative without even, yeah, clearly knowing that you play the right moves. It's just like, it sometimes just flows. Like here, I mean, I was always very confident that I have enough for the pawn, but it got very concrete only here when I saw that, okay, the queen has very little squares. And right here, when we come to this position, I saw this winning idea with knight d7, which is, I mean, I always thought I must have enough due to my great development. And only here it was this concrete combination that won this game in this nice way. Yeah, queen c7 was the best defense, but we see that even very strong players can fail if they have to yeah, defend in this very accurate way. It's not easy at all to make this kind of defensive moves and see all the tricks. Yeah, and this is a very nice finish of the game. Black has no defense to that. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the coverage of this game. It was one of my, I think, most attractive combinations that I had against a stronger player, and it was very nice. It's also the highest rated player that I've ever beaten, so yeah, I'm pretty happy with the game. I hope you enjoyed to watch the video, and as I said, I'm going to post a couple of more of those over the next couple of weeks. I'm not quite sure how many and in which kind of rhythm, like how often, but I try to present a couple, because there were a couple of good games, or interesting games at least, to show. Okay guys, thanks for watching.